Good evening. Welcome to the February 10th, 2026 Planning Board meeting. I'd like to start with the pledge, please. Allegiance to the flag. I'll make my few standard announcements. The emergency exits are to your left and right at the sides of the room. Restrooms are out the back door and to the left. Please be sure to sign in to the attendance sheet if you have not done so already, and it's out back on the table. There are business cards also back there, along with any resolutions and the agenda this evening, if you need those business cards to get contact information for the planning department. Please silence your cell phone so you don't disrupt the meeting, and take any conversations you may wish to have amongst yourselves out into the hallway and close the door. Thanks. We have 3 items on the agenda tonight. There have been a number that were removed, and I'll address those as they come up. If you're here for Stewart Tree Service, Good Life Collective, Thirsty Turtle, Valenti Minor Subdivision, Centola Site Plan, Lehigh Place, PDD, or Element by Weston, they've all been removed until future meetings. Meeting minutes, Lisa sent us along one for the 13th of January. I think everyone was here. On the 13th? Oh, okay. I thought,
We were here the 13th.
yeah, it was the 27th. So, yeah, you were here for the 13th. Anything changes?
Okay.
I'll entertain a motion to approve. Al moves,
Second.
and Joe seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's passed. Minutes. Any correspondence, Lisa?
No.
Okay. Boards and committee updates. Dave Condon's here. Good evening, Dave. How you doing? Great. It's February, and the temperature is not 2 below.
Right. I don't think you'll break our record tonight, but you might be pretty close with the lighter agenda for you. We were 15 minutes, Dave Nankin will attest, start to finish last night, so it was a pretty quiet meeting. And maybe it's because we didn't have an engineer there, or we didn't have an attorney. I don't know, Wes. Could be one or the other. Might be both. But anyway.
Al's looking at me like he knows how to stretch out a meeting.
The one thing I will say, and James will reiterate, is be careful when you leave, because the temperature's dropping and it's slick on that black ice out there. James took a spill and I almost fell on the way in, so be careful on your way out.
Thanks, Dave. Keith, planning board updates, project updates. Thanks to you and Lisa, by the way, for forwarding on the status of outstanding projects.
No problem. Keith Maynard, project manager for the town of Victor. So I guess we'll start with that. Did anybody have any questions on the updates that we sent out? Again, we've been trying to do it every 6 months, just so, and at any point, if you guys have questions, let us know, but.
Town board appreciates it.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
Yeah, it's they started that last year, I think, and it's great to be able to just sort of look back and scratching your head, what happened to it?
Almost the
is.
same list is always available on the website, too. Susie keeps us on track, making sure we update that every so often, so.
Great.
Your next planning board meeting, Tuesday, February 24th at 7 p.m. We'll have obviously any carryovers, as you just read a whole list. New, though, is Galassi Utility Site Plan, which is on Lionel Road. An applicant is requesting approval for the proposed installation of sanitary sewer and storm sewer through the portions of the town lands to connect to the existing utilities along Lionel Road. So the village. Galassis have gone back to the village to have the village portion of the Galassi project, which is single-family homes totally in the village, reapproved, but they have to run the sanitary sewer and the storm through their property within the town. So we've asked them to do a site plan application to run those utilities. So no buildings on the town portion of the project, but utilities to support the village portion.
The stormwater features on that development between this village and town, do they have to do anything with those on town property?
So yeah, there'll be a stormwater facilities maintenance agreement. So we're going to structure it similar to how we did the outfalls for both Bluemont and Stonebrook, where the project is in the town of Victor, stormwater facilities in that case are in the town of Victor, but the outfall is actually going to the town of Farmington. So we worked with the attorneys to come up with a process to make it so that even though it's in the town of Farmington, the town of Victor is responsible. So similarly, all this will be the responsibility of the village. So it's a different form of a stormwater facility. It's a combination of a form of stormwater facility maintenance agreements and easements that legally ties the responsibility to the village of Victor.
Okay. Any indication if Glacy Development's going to move forward?
We have had nothing.
Okay, so they're doing the village piece, and they happen to come back for this, but you don't
All the
know anything.
conversations we've had with their engineer, there's no inclination at this point that they're coming back. And I think you guys all know, but just for the public, their previous approvals have all expired.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, thanks.
yeah, no problem at all. And then the other new thing is Woods of Allentown Sections 2 through 4 preliminary subdivision application. So on January 27th, you saw the sketch plan. This is the preliminary plan application for Sections 2 through 4. And that's all that's new. Anybody have any questions? Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Keith. Okay, relatively short agenda this evening, so let's get right to it for Al's sake. First one, extension of time, U-Haul self-storage site plan. The applicant received approval for storage on the U-Haul site July 23rd, 2024, to combine the two tax parcels to facilitate the placement of prefabricated metal storage units totaling 13,600 square feet on the existing paved parking area. And pursuant to the town code 21131F2, the applicant's required to obtain a building permit within 1 year of the date of the planning board chairman's signature of the final plans. Applicants requesting first 90-day extension to section 21131F2. We did receive an extension request letter, if y'all had a chance to review it. Basically, they're waiting for DOT permits to cross the 96 for, I think it's sanitary, if I'm not mistaken, connections. So, I don't know if there's anyone here for that, or if you want to, okay. So, is there any discussion or questions regarding that request?
I don't have any concerns.
Nothing for me, Joe.
Okay. Well, with that, we'll move forward then with this resolution. Relatively simple. You have no objections. So the draft you have is U-Haul self-storage site plan, 8045 State Route 96, application 14 SB 2024 and F5 SU 2024. Whereas by letter dated January 28th, 2026, Adam Fischel, on behalf of his client, the applicant, U-Haul Americo Real Estate, for the U-Haul self-storage site plan, labeled the project, requested a 90-day extension of time to obtain a building permit in accordance with the Victor Town Code, Section 21131F2, and whereas the code Section 21131F2 provides that an applicant shall obtain a building permit for any project that has received site plan approval within 1 year from the date of the resolution granting site plan approval, whether such approval is conditional or otherwise. If a building permit is not issued within 1 year, the site plan approval shall expire. The 1 year period may be extended by the planning board up to 2 90-day periods at the discretion of the planning board. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Town of Victor Planning Board grants a first 90-day extension of time for the project to obtain a building permit. Your motion,
I'll move.
Al moves,
Second.
so seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
4-0. Okay. Extension 90 days is granted. The second one, this is for the Woods at Valentine, Section 1 reapproval. The public hearing was closed previously. High Point Drive, applicants requesting reapproval of the June 26, 2022 approved site plan for Woods at Valentine. Section 1 consists of construction of 2 42-unit buildings, a proposed clubhouse, and associated site layout. Good evening, James.
Good evening, everyone. Happy to be back again.
My name is James Creedicos. I'm with BME Associates here on behalf of Commercial Street Partners LLC. At the last meeting, I think the kind of main questions that the board had were really in relation to the views and from Valentine Road and those things. So actually, wouldn't mind bringing up the other rendering that we sent over.
Yeah.
The one that we sent over today. There, that one, yeah, perfect. So
Okay.
here's a rendering of just the section one, so north is to the right here. And what we did was, we didn't have any current aerial imagery GIS coordinated that had the houses on it, but the town did provide us with the approved subdivision plan from the subdivision, so we just overlaid the lot lines and basically just drafted in the driveways and the house pads based on what was approved. Now, I don't know if they minor changes with the actual plot plans as the individuals, but I believe these are pretty close based on looking at this in the field. And
Definitely
things
really
like that.
helpful. I appreciate your overlaying those, James.
Yep. There was no tree clearing identified anywhere on those plans, so I'm assuming everything on here is still up to date and current for everything. So basically, this is, kind of the view shed. This is the relationship of all these other houses. The visualization photo that we took that is of the rendering and that we can show in a second basically sits about right here on this bend near this driveway. And then the resident that was here, I believe lot 8, is this flag lot across the street that has a shared driveway with that existing home that sits there. There's really not any major views. This is probably one of the best screened locations because of the existing vegetation here and the hedgerow and all the other kind of growth that's grown up around the front of the pond over the years since it was installed. If you wouldn't mind going to the next photo.
Next photo is a close-up of the tree
perfect.
line.
Yeah, we'll stay here
No,
for a
that's
second.
good.
So the photos I took, I took a new photos today of where we took the visualization photo. So, and then I used the Google Street View of that so you can get a summer, winter, and that. And then the other photo we took was basically standing right here on this existing drive and kind of looking up at this angle, just to give you guys an idea of what that hedgerow looks like and what kind of the materials are. So here's a Google Street View. I believe this is May of 2024. So as you can see, it's a very deciduous hedgerow here, but it is very alive. It does create a pretty good buffer. I mean, you can't see any of the staged equipment or anything, a little bit of stockpile that's back here today with that hedgerow, obviously in this photo.
And can you go back, Susie, one shot to the aerial? So I see where you're looking. You're looking through here at staged areas, so there is tree clearing in the light green, correct? That's the
So
plan?
this light green area,
Uh-huh.
this is what we're able to do after coordinating with the fire marshal, Bob Graham. He was okay with us walking out this building and only providing a 10-foot flat area for their ladder access, as well as our HVAC pads and screening there. Basically, they're going to do everything from the front. The back of this only has second-story balconies, so that's not a big issue for them with the height at all. So he was okay with us walking out the lower part of the garage, which allows us to save that light area, additional
Oh, okay.
vegetation. So that's the difference between what was on the approved plan that we submitted and what we're able to update with the relief a little bit from the fire department.
Speaking of the light green area, James, question for you. So I thought maybe the drawing that I looked at showed that potentially in that light green area, there would be some grading proposed, and that maybe if there was any existing vegetation there, that it wouldn't remain, or am I incorrect?
So we sent over a little sketch exhibit that had some red lines on it. The
Yep.
red lines were what we would change it to. So we would get the grading out of this. Basically, we'd come back, there'd be a 10-foot flat area here, and then we're going down at like a 3-on-1 to hit grade, and it drops like 6 to 8 feet.
Okay. So then you are any vegetation that's there
Anything
in
that's
that light
there would
green
be
area, you'd be
preserved.
preserving. Okay.
But, obviously, this area was all kind of worked and filled when High Point Drive was built. I mean, we've been staging stockpiles, topsoil there. This was cleared originally with the original plans. I think they were the townhouse variation from 2005 when High Point Drive was constructed, because this stormwater facility was built to support some of the office buildings. So when we did this, we brought in all the utilities and brought everything through here so we would never have to disturb it again. So that included, bringing water, sewer, stubs into this lower portion here. So, this stub's already here. There is a construction drive that comes down here. So some of this area, the old mature trees that were there pre-anything have already been cleared, and they were removed based on the approved plans a long time ago. So obviously, this is our new limit if there's anything in there that's grown up since it's been touched, successional, we'll save it. And, do what we can to maximize the buffer that's available.
Can that area be, I don't know, fenced off, shaded, or, tagged or something that isn't going to be disturbed?
Yes,
before you get-
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we'll put some orange construction fence or do some delineations on the plans just to make
Okay.
sure.
Just
that
hate
all the
seeing
tree
like
lines
errant
are
bulldozers or whatever going through and
absolutely.
excavators. So, okay. Same location now as the Google Earth?
Yep, that is still looking up the driveway. So obviously, as you can see, it is a deciduous hedgerow. There is not very many evergreens in here. So in the wintertime, you do have views through this, and it's consistent with all the other visualizations and renderings for all of High Point since
That was taken
project
today,
started.
right?
This was taken today.
Yeah, I was out there today. Looks like what I saw.
Yep, if you want to go to the next one. So here is kind of the Google Street fishbowl view. It's kind of a little, augmented angle-wise, but that existing driveway, the key points here probably are this overhead wire, and kind of the lane here, and then I don't know if you can see it in this photo, there is usually you can see the top of the cell tower, or the overhead.
Which house is this one?
So this is the,
Lot number, I guess.
so there's the two new houses that sit on the other side of this
Okay.
hedgerow, and then there's our hedgerow.
All right,
So this is the last of the setback of the four on the shared driveway. There would be another house that would sit in here, and then there's the other two houses that
Okay.
are just to the right of this. Can you go to the next one, please? So here's the photo, same thing today. This is the driveway right here. So same thing. So now you can see this is the new house one, that's the new house two. That other new house off the shared driveway sits right off the edge of this photo here. Overhead power lines, and basically you can kind of get the same idea. And then if you go to the next photo, this is our visualization. This photo is a little bit up in the street view, so it doesn't have the driveway, but same idea. You can see the overhead wires here and that cell tower just to kind of show positioning. So those other houses obviously sit about like right here in the foreground and right here. So they're actually going to screen our buildings a little bit from the view as you're coming around the bend. Yep, so you can see that was basically that location
Ah,
right there.
okay.
The rest of the slides, James, are the balloon study, so I didn't know if you wanted
Yeah,
them or not. So,
Everything, I mean, unless you guys have other questions about it, I mean, that visualization for this is based on that balloon study that we did with all the sections 2 through 4 stuff. We'll go through all that in detail for the future sections, so.
Okay, so as I recall at the meeting, the major concern was the view sheds, which you're addressing. Does anybody have any questions for James? I appreciate the effort to try to salvage some more of that foliage there and reduce the amount of fill in front of the building, I guess, to make it, and it's technically not walkout because it's a garage side of the
Yeah, we're
building.
basically just, the garage sits about 9 feet lower than the first floor on the southern half of the buildings. So we're just walking out to that, so it's basically a at-grade
Yeah,
type of thing.
there wouldn't physically be walkouts unless it was like emergency.
No, we might expose like the basement windows now that we have the ability, just because of airflow, and it actually helps
Yeah.
with some of like the building code and stuff because of the underground parking.
Okay. I'm just looking for due diligence in terms of trying to salvage as much of the vegetation and
Yeah,
screening
we
as you
did. We
can.
can't, and we can't do much more without starting to let stormwater runoff go off the property, because we do have a storm sewer line back there, and we basically are running that as shallow as we can put it now.
Yeah, okay. All right. What was that? There was another question.
So that was the view shed.
Yeah.
The other two things that we did was obviously meet with the fire marshal on that. The last thing was we had a very good meeting with Parks and Rec yesterday.
Thank you, yeah.
Yep,
Trail
so we,
easement, yeah.
Brian and Dave Wright both came to our office along with some other people from Parks and Rec. Basically, if you wouldn't mind going back to the section 1 rendering. Yeah, that's perfect. So basically what we met, and if you guys recall, there are some trail loops and things that are up on the office, High Point 300, Building 200, that all need to be installed as well. Basically, what Parks and Rec came to us with was they would like to do what is called a stacked loop trail. They're looking at, instead of just doing a simple connection down here in 2 spots, they are looking at basically fitting in an entire giant trail network loop with still our two connections to get some length in here. I think it was going to be close to, almost a mile worth of looping that they're able to do at a couple elevations for various things. Basically, they want to take the lead on going out there, siting it, kind of evaluating with their trail designers how it's going to work, and then basically flagging it, and then having us come walk it, Commercial Street Partners and us, make sure there's nothing that's, jumping out to us as wrong. I did also coordinate with the Rinaldi's earlier today. They're both acceptable to that as well. So basically, we'll just get probably Joe Bader, their construction manager, to just come and walk it with us once Parks and Rec flags it, and then we'll let them kind of take the lead on building and constructing these things.
It's a pretty good slope grade from High Point Drive down to the lower section,
It's a
correct?
it's a very
Yeah.
substantial.
I'm trying to picture a side slope trail without having erosion problems.
Yeah, so they'll basically build the trail in along the contours, so the trail isn't going to be too steep. It'll basically be a lot more level.
Yeah.
But that's something that the trail guys are, cognizant of. They're more probably apt to designing and preventing washouts and
Yeah.
repairing these things than somebody like we are. I'm, wide corridor trails type of thing would be more our
Yeah.
game plan. So,
Oh, okay, that's good.
so I think that was the other main update.
As I recall, I think you're right. Any questions for James? Joe?
No, I would like to comment, though. I think it's great that you took the two issues from the last meeting with the parks and the views and came back with some positives. So I just wanted to comment that that's pretty cool. So,
And then they were also, for the trails and stuff that we're going to do in the future sections through the woods and stuff, they were also willing to be involved with that and doing
Yeah.
some of those constructions.
Okay.
I think anything we do along the roads, obviously, will be kind of under the developer's purview if we're doing the trails there, so.
Scott, anything?
What is the resultant slope that you come up with then at the downside of the buildings? It was 1-on-2 before, I think you had. Are you able to flatten it out a little bit?
Down here, like,
Yeah.
where we're walking it out?
Yeah, the walkout.
Not really. I mean, we're basically trying to save more vegetation, so it's 10 feet of flat area and then dropping down a couple feet down to grade. Instead of dropping whatever the 12 to 13 feet we were doing before, we're only dropping down 6 or so, which lets us kind of, we can flatten it out more and give more space if that's something you guys want, but then we just end up pushing closer to the property line a little bit with the grading.
So Scott, I know that you have the plans that we've seen with, I think there's a section right up through the building there that would show that slope. And James is saying that the ground is going to match the elevation of the inside of the building right there, or nearly match it? Of the
Yes.
parking area
Yes, yes.
inside? So
Yeah, so our
instead of,
finished floor, say, is 750, and that lower parking garage is 741, right? So we're just on the back, once we get to that lower area, we're just dropping down grade to basically follow what the,
So do you have to clear cut to the property line then? I mean, your plans last time I saw, the grading showed grading all the way down to the property line.
he did mention about the green that's up there, the light green. That's the area that they would have done that and that they're saving. So they're not going to have to grade to the property line.
yeah, we started basically with what Bob Graham was like, we need at least a 10-foot area behind the buildings for access, and we need that
Right,
anyways because we have our
I
HVAC
understand
equipment.
that. I just think, I think it's tough. I think that's a benefit. One of the things I was looking at, and I don't know if Wes can call it up, but I don't know if Wes can call it up on his computer, but could you call up Eagle View? Do you have that on your computer?
Yeah, just give me a minute and I'll pull it up.
Just to take a look at an oblique photograph that gives another perspective, I think, on what you have there. I think that existing hedgerow that's there between the houses, I think that does provide a buffer for someone traveling down Valentine Road, and you've shown that in your street view. But for those 1, 2, 3 houses there, they're going to have, a wall of residential housing right at the edge of their driveway, as I see it. And I just think it's extremely tight. And another item that comes to mind for me anyway is having worked with the Homeowners Association for the Drumlins, and Keith knows this. They're the HOA that's dealing with the resultant 1-on-2 slopes, and they've had all kinds of difficulty working with those slopes, mowing those slopes, maintaining those slopes, controlling erosion on those slopes. So that's the reason for my concern with respect to the grading. And I don't know a way to get a 1-on-2 slope to a property line and not remove the vegetation up to that point. And maybe even the vegetation on the other side of the property line that may have a root system within the other property, within your property, for example. So that's my concern. I just think we're real tight on that side. And I also have to admit that when this project came before us a couple of years ago, I remember I didn't pay attention to that. And I remember walking out, and I think I was speaking with Dave Christa, who was going to do the construction perhaps at the time. I don't know if he still is or not. And I didn't really catch it, but I just think we're really tight on that side. And I think the Eagle View oblique shows a pretty good capture of that view from a different angle.
Right. Yeah, that's not.
Oh, okay.
The F8? Okay.
So James, next to the building at the southwest corner where the garage entrance is, if that's the right one, it looks like your original plan showed around
I don't understand why.
748, 750, and then it worked its way down to that corner where it's 742-ish.
Yep.
And the garage is a 743 at 0.5 entrance elevation. So is that you're lowering it so you don't have to do so much fill, correct?
I mean, unplug?
Well, the fill I actually need, this actually generates dirt that we got to figure out where to put by cutting this down more.
Yeah.
No, we're just trying to basically get so once we get about halfway, that's when we started grading down to follow that floor. And that's what allows us to basically have the same grading pattern, whatever the slope was, whether it was a 2-on-1 or 3-on-1, and get the grading further away from the property line to try and preserve as many of those trees.
Yeah.
The rest of the development up through here, I mean, this is always, it's the same configuration. We're providing the 10-foot flat area and then coming out. Even walking out this building out, we just end up with this little sliver of additional vegetation here because we do have a storm sewer that runs through here as well, which is outside that 10 feet. We're basically building it into the slope
Okay.
effectively. And then for the slope construction, I mean, this has been kind of worked over 20 years. There really haven't been any washouts or issues with us establishing 2-on-1 or 3-on-1 slopes out here. This property, even if it with 2-on-1, this is all owned by Krista, so this isn't owned by the HOA. So they won't have an HOA won't be involved with managing this portion of the
good.
facility
Yeah.
at all either, so.
They're collaborating on trying to hook up Wes's computer to the screen again. Anything else, Scott, or thoughts?
Well, I'm hoping that'll come up, but one other thought that I had was with respect to the changes in the vegetation. And I was wondering if we could use our landscape consultant to take a look at this and hopefully concur with the changes that have been proposed or maybe ask for modifications necessary.
Are you talking about plantings, or are you talking about the grading?
Well, I think the plantings relate directly to the grading. I think I'd like an independent eye on this particular aspect of the project to the extent that that individual could take a look at this and say, yes, they're doing, a terrific job in buffering these apartment buildings, or perhaps they can do more in this regard or that regard. But the landscaping, the survivability of the landscaping relates to the grading.
Right. It will be hard. It will be challenging to establish and maintain trees in the slope area.
Right.
Right. And we don't want to obviously plant them within 10 feet of the building for fire access as well as utility reasons. So anything that we do planting wise is going to have, and then it needs to be outside of our storm sewer as well.
Yeah.
So I think basically us trying to minimize the grading with the walkouts is we're maximizing the protection of the existing vegetation.
I agree with that approach. And I think that's an assist, no question about it. I've had these projects before and I know how they go. And I just think those those people who live in those houses there, they're going to be very much affected by this.
Yeah, but I would also contest that, I was informed that those residents were made aware, the developer was made aware that this project existed, was previously approved. And this project specifically probably has multiple millions of dollars of infrastructure installed and invested across High Point Business Park between the construction of High Point Drive, the extension of the sanitary sewer along Valentine, as well as, water mains up, down Turk Hill Road. We did the pump station improvements. They rebuilt High Street in 96. They rebuilt Valentine in 96, and they rebuilt Cobblestone in 96 and everything in between
Sure.
for all those infrastructure. So this is, and it's in the context of, the entire business park, the views and the visualizations, and obviously with the town issuing a negative declaration on this in 2019 when we had the 4-building configuration, which is consistent, obviously, with this in terms of height, density, and building mass, as then moving to, was it 2022, when had this exact project basically approved. And we're happy to work with you guys and make these amenities. And, if it's something that would make you guys feel more comfortable, we do have a mass planting area designated on the slope here where we have always trying to be replanting trees. So we do have some number of trees that we were planning on using there. If it would be the board's purview, I mean, we'd be happy to, once this is in and established, do kind of what we did on the Norbert project and have maybe site-specific evergreens in a configuration to try and block views specific to that resident, as opposed to just trying to create a long buffer. And then this resident too, obviously, they have a lot of room on this lot. They didn't have to build their house 20 feet from the property line or whatever that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been very open, public information, and the developers have been working with the builder's been working with the clients, say, hey, up front, this is going in at some point, it's been approved. The light green, you're just saving vegetation in that light green
That's
area.
additional vegetation that we're saving
You're
past
not-
what we
yeah,
have on the
it's-
approved plans
Those aren't
from
new
years ago.
plantings, those are just vegetation that's just not going to be filled, scraped off and filled, which is what they originally planned before we had that conversation last month. So in my mind, the biggest objection came from Lot 8, and he was concerned about, at the last meeting, about view shed of this. I was thinking maybe if we could put some more plantings by the pond, but that doesn't really get into his view shed at all.
And if you drive by that,
Yeah.
there's successional growth that has taken over that whole front.
Uh-huh.
If you drive by in front of the pond, you probably won't be able to see the office buildings. Really, the only view you're going to have is as you make this bend and look up in this direction.
Yeah.
Aren't there plantings, for example, and I'm not a landscape architect, but I bump into enough of them, like an arborvitae, or I think one of them told me about a jumbo juniper or something like that grows very large and bushy, and it's coniferous, so it's there year-round. It provides a year-round buffer.
Till the deer eat them.
I'm sorry?
Till the deer eat them.
Well, they didn't tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean, as long as because of these are full-grown deciduous trees. If the growth density is like it is in the summer in that picture, you can't plant evergreens super close to that because they will choke it out. And you also are going to have a 46-foot peak building next to 40-foot tall trees and trying to plant.
Yeah, there's no way you're going to screen a 3-story building, right?
Yeah, especially with the
Typically,
grade.
It's 3 stories from the basement all the way up. Maybe 4. I don't know.
So the majority of the buffering, assuming it survives, is really on the neighbor's property.
Yes. That's what was worked through with
Yeah.
all these back in the day. So, figure it out, Wes?
I think we gave it the old college try, but it doesn't seem to be working.
All right.
I'm happy to pass around the laptop if that's helpful.
It's a good photograph, though, isn't it?
What was it he was looking for? Just, you could turn it towards Scott in any case.
Well, it's
And what you were looking at?
Yeah. Boy.
Not No.
But the town. While Scott's perusing, anybody else have any questions or thoughts?
No.
Okay.
For what it's worth, we did have two of the residents from Valentine Meadow stop in to look at the plans. And I gave them the option to write correspondence in or come, and they were aware of it, so.
I think you can pass this down the row here, but I think you can see, and the property lines are a little skewed because it's an oblique, but I think you can see that there's a lot of vegetation that came out previously. As you said, they've used this as a laydown area or something like that, and looks like you've got mounds of stuff, but the remaining vegetation is very slight.
Yeah. And it's not like there's a lot of room, honestly, on the site at the property line, add vegetation. In a way, it would have been nice maybe to have pushed the buildings when it was originally planned and approved, but that's not going to happen now.
Yeah. No, I think we spoke about putting it on the other side of the road and how that doesn't work. I get that.
Yeah, I'm just thinking if, I'm not going to even go there. Just pass it down.
Pass the laptop. That's one way to do it.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else? James, I assume that's everything you had.
Yeah, I don't have it unless you guys have more questions. And obviously, anything sections 2 through 4, I'd like to just
Mhm.
do once we get into preliminary in 2 weeks.
Hey!
Hey,
How did that happen?
You just had to shake the computer.
Yeah, right?
I don't know what.
we called the IT person and they
Oh, you're
were
we're
ready
talking
to
about this
help out.
right in here.
Yeah.
And James is talking about, well, right now, I don't know if that property line is accurately portrayed on the vegetation, because,
Well, that's kind of close, and that's my
Yeah.
point. I get the
property
green,
line's probably more like here.
I get the green color and everything, but
There's nothing there. The building's too close to do anything meaningful.
Yeah, this is the entrance right here. This is a construction drive we've been using.
I get that.
Yep. And then the sanitary and I believe the other utilities came up through here. So a lot of this vegetation that was, built, this is obviously all graded out for the stormwater facilities for the infrastructure coming down. This slope was established because this comes down to a flat area. And then there's quite a bit of grade, obviously, between even where the road ended up to fit into the context of the site and that property line.
Yeah, looking at the contours on that plan between High Point Drive and, well, it's at High Point Drive also, I guess, but,
Yeah, we would love to be able to lower that building more, but it just doesn't work with
yeah.
how the road stubs and everything were laid out originally. So this site actually, the whole road part of this, where the road is getting installed, is all cut. And then even with the basement lower level, most of the building slab is in fill here. And a lot of our dirt from sections 2 and 4 come to make the fills in section 1.
Okay. All right. Unless there's an objection, we have a draft resolution here for this reapproval. So, you don't have an objection, right?
I read through it. I have nothing objecting to it.
So for application 40 SB 2025, whereas the planning board made the following findings of fact, there are 15 of them. Now therefore be it resolved, Town of Victor Planning Board hereby reaffirms a negative declaration that was issued on April 23rd, 2019, and be it further resolved that the application of Commercial Street Partners, 64 Commercial Street, Suite 401, Rochester, New York, site plan entitled Woods at Valentine, Section 1 reapproval, drawn by BME Associates, dated September 21st, 2022, received by the Planning Board December 23rd, 2025. Planning Board application 40 SB 2025 be approved with the following conditions. 1, conditions to be addressed prior to the chairman's signature on the site plan. Number 1 is standard. Number 2, comments from Parks and Rec dated January 16th, 2026 be addressed. Number 3, comments from Town of Farmington Water and Sewer dated January 14th, 2026 be addressed. Number 4, that the comments from the Highway Superintendent dated January 14th, 2026 be addressed. Ongoing conditions. 1 is standard. 2, 2-year maintenance bonds shall be provided by the developer to the town for all improvements to be offered to the town for dedication. Maintenance bonds shall be written by a surety licensed to do business in New York State, and they shall be in the amount of 10% of the final construction cost as determined by the engineer for the town. Number 3, at the request of the Planning and Building Department, a pre-construction meeting shall be held prior to start of construction. Number 4, a letter of credit for the project be established with the Town of Victor Town Clerk prior to pre-construction meeting. Number 5, building design plan shall be consistent with the architectural landscape details as shown on the elevations and details drawn by Hanlon Architects and dated June 11th, 2022. Number 6, that a building permit be obtained prior to the start of construction, and be it further resolved that the planning board secretary distribute the planning board's approval letter. So, that resolution as written, do I hear a motion for approval?
I'll move.
Joe moves,
I'll second.
Al seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 1, it's 3-1, passed. Okay.
Thank you guys very much. I'll see you in 2 weeks, and we'll talk about the future sections.
Yep. Thank you, James. Okay, this last item on the agenda is a public hearing, Wallace Minor Subdivision, 1195 Cork Road, owner Craig Wallace. Applicants requesting approval to subdivide a 6.3 acre parcel into 2 proposed lots. Lot 1 will consist of a 1.119 acre and an existing house, and Lot 2 will consist of 5.165 acres and a proposed single-family home. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Ian Cookman. I'm with McMahon LaRue Associates, site civil engineers and land surveyors for the project. Appreciate the laser pointer. Here to discuss the application as described for the Wallace Minor Subdivision. The application is for subdivision to break off a parcel for single-family residential new build adjacent to an existing dwelling. We're showing Lot 1 and Lot 2. We appeared before the Conservation Board last week, and we don't believe we received any comments. I'm not sure if you guys received any type of commentary from the Conservation Board.
We did.
You did? Okay, great. We did receive code enforcement officer comments, and we've also received the town engineer's comments as well. We responded with formal response to the CEO's comments. We received the town engineer's comments today, and I have briefly looked through them. I think a lot of great comments were made, and I think that we can accommodate all of those minor modifications with further modifications to our site plans. What we're showing is the parcel is a unique shape, number one, and it's also got some unique ecological features with a tributary stream corridor passing through it with some ponded area and some delineated wetland. We worked with our sub-consultants a couple years ago to delineate the extent of those boundaries, and we've honored the 100-foot adjacent area to that delineation with the extent of our development, including the total site disturbance with grading for the building pad, in addition to the septic system that is also adjacent 100 foot from that wetland delineation. So we're not proposing any type of joint permit application or wetland or Army Corps of Engineers permitting for wetland disturbance or takings or impact in general to the adjacent area. That said, we are showing a footprint that is theoretically the maximum footprint conceivable for that little nugget of land after we're all said and done with the geometry and the wetland delineation that we're left with. Our intent is to, I guess our applicant's intent is to market this parcel to a custom build, and it would be a more customized building footprint that would likely be equal or less than the building footprint that we're showing there. We're also anticipating additional general permit coverage available by New York State this year to allow residential development within the 100-foot buffer area that will provide future relief. But we wanted to present something that could be buildable today. So that was our intent in what we're showing here today. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but our intent here is for approval of subdivision and showcasing that the subdivision that we're proposing is proof of concept developable. But ultimately, we're seeking approval for the subdivision component, obviously building plans. So I'd be curious to see what the board's opinions and thoughts are on our application, and I will be quiet and take notes.
Okay, thank you. This is a public hearing. We'll open it up to the public once we get a chance to run through the board here and hear any comments from our town engineer. Scott, you had any questions to start?
I just have one maybe. You had the wetlands delineated. Did you have to apply for a JD as well?
Yeah, we submitted a parcel jurisdictional determination by New York State DEC. They indeed do have jurisdiction, like they always do, in the greater Rochester area and surrounding counties. So it is jurisdictional. So if we were to impact the wetland or wetland adjacent area, we would indeed need.
Okay, so you already did that. Okay.
Yep.
I think the plans are well done.
Thank you.
Al?
No, I think, again, my concern was around the ability to build on it. I think with the concept you've laid in there, it's feasible, so I have no other questions or comments.
Thank you.
Joe, questions?
I'm pretty much in the same place as well.
Okay. I had a minor comment or question. You're showing a water line connection across the road. I don't see a connection to the gas main through there. Are you planning on indicating that that's an option, or?
I think we're showing it that it's an option by showing that it's in the right of way. Usually what we've experienced is that RG&E does their own design anyways, and we could put it on a piece of paper, but they're just going to do what they're going to do anyways.
I didn't know if you were trying to exclude a gas
Yeah,
hookup.
they'll tie
or-
into gas and electric.
Yeah, okay. All right, so that's available to
Yes,
the
that is
potential
available.
buyer? Okay,
For
all
sure.
right. Other than that, I,
Fingers crossed anyways for now.
yeah, well, you got to hear. We'll see. At least for now. That's all I had. I'm going to open it up. Oh, wait, Wes, questions, engineering comments?
Yeah, as Ian said that we issued the comment letter today, Labella did. A number of comments, I don't know that all of them we have to go through right here, but first one, the septic system for Lot 1, do you know where that is on, and would you be able to depict that on the plans?
We could depict it. It would be hard to accurately show, particularly the leach field, but we can certainly show where the septic tank is and
Okay.
approximately where the leach field is.
Okay,
The applicant has had it maintained the past 2 years, so it's operationally functioning, so we can provide you with that report as well that was
Okay.
provided by the maintenance
Do
contractor.
they know how old the system is? Do you know how old the leach field septic system is at that?
I requested record. I don't know if the town had record of that. But again, we got a assurance from the maintenance contractor that it's operationally.
the concern that I guess Labella might have is there have been instances, I'm not necessarily in Victor, but subdivision applications where a subdivision has gone through and it turns out that the septic system on an adjoining lot winds up being on a lot
No,
where
that's
the
an
building
excellent,
site is going.
that's an excellent
So-
ask.
I could tell you the septic system is to the rear of the lot
Okay,
back here.
all right. That's helpful.
Will it be on the slope? I mean, you say the rear of the lot, I mean, it's a pretty good drop off behind,
Yep, so before it drops off.
okay.
It's definitely going to be west of that existing shed. If you,
Mhm.
I don't know if you.
It
have
looks
the-
like there's a big gravel parking area perhaps there
Yeah,
behind the,
so it'd be behind the gravel parking area upslope of, before the drop-off,
okay.
approximately.
I think I'm with Wes that it should really be shown on the
Sure.
plan before he can sign off on it. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, not necessarily. I mean, it'd be good to know if it's operational and in good maintenance, but that's not our primary concern, I guess.
Well, my concern would be maybe not that, although it can be, it's, where, you know, how close is it to the lot line?
Yeah, right.
Right?
Yep.
So it may
Part of the
function just fine,
subdivision.
but if it's 2 feet off and it needs to be 10 or 15 or something, that's
That's right.
an issue.
Okay. Let's see, the project is in the Arundequoit Creek watershed, but it doesn't trigger any requirements for stormwater management practices at the state or local level. Again, the driveway turnaround, right, there's understanding this is just conceptual, right? Showing that a house could be constructed in this location. The driveway turnaround is shown to be, maybe around 4 or 5 feet from, nope, I'm sorry. It's closer than maybe 10 foot to the side lot line, so that might require a waiver from the planning board to the design and construction standards.
10 foot the minimum.
As it's depicted on detail RS6, yeah, 10-foot minimum separation between the driveway and the lot line. Freshwater wetlands, we've covered this. It's good to understand that you have submitted to DEC, and I think you've taken kind of the precautionary measures and just made some assumptions early on that it was going to be a DEC jurisdictional wetland. So you've provided the adequate 100-foot buffer. That's helpful. Erosion sediment control, let's see.
You said this was a conceptual house plan, correct?
Yeah.
Same with the driveway? To Wes's point, if the pavement is too close to the property line, I think it should be adjusted before we get the, just like adding the leach field to the other lot 1 to verify that that's appropriately placed relative to the new property line requested. I think that driveway should be shown with at least the minimum side setback.
Yeah, we want to show
Yeah.
something that's buildable.
Right.
Yep,
So I can't say that's buildable if it violates the town's code.
I agree.
Unless you were to provide the waiver.
Yeah, I would prefer not to if there's
Prefer
room
not
to,
Okay,
I would probably just remove the turnaround for the conceptual drawing and make it simple.
there you go.
yeah, you can do that too.
They will need a waiver for the driveway though, right? Because spacing of the driveway,
Driveway spacing, that's possible. I could check chapter 55, but
see the site distances are shown, but
Yeah,
yeah.
driveway cuts are pretty close to one another and it's
Yep.
45 through there. So I don't think you're not gonna make that distance.
no.
Okay.
And I think that's something we have to maybe revisit in the town code, because if the lot is 100-foot wide, is the
Yeah.
requirement.
You're gonna have every 100 foot of
You're gonna-
driveway. Yeah.
By definition. So
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
I mean-
I agree, and I'm trying to figure out if that does have value, and I think the more I look at it, the more I think more in a commercial application.
Yeah. that's what-
yeah, I'm thinking a
See it.
parking lot for 100 cars or
Right.
a road and a parking lot, whatever it is.
High traffic area.
I
where you
totally
got-
agree with
Or a
that.
large subdivision too.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would agree that there are certain roads where maybe those access spacing requirements are beneficial and useful, but I think on some of the more rural roads, maybe not so much.
yeah, I mean, how many cars come out of the driveway? One a
Right.
day,
Right.
a couple a day, whatever. So,
I guess since this is also conceptual, we did make a comment on utilities and that the water main and the service, whether or not it would be directionally drilled or an open cut with a roadway. We'll just coordinate that with the highway superintendent.
I know what he's going to say.
Directional drill. So
Yeah.
if it's going to be directional drilled, we might want to be sure you have adequate space on both sides of the road and identify whether there's a need for, either a temporary access easement on the opposite side of the road. I don't know have you run into that sort of thing before? Where you need some extra space on the other side of the road to be able to make a connection?
Depends on if we can keep it within the right of way.
But this was a fine looking subdivision plan. We didn't really have any serious comments that were too complex. But that's the gist of our comment letter.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and it's our intent to address all of your comments to the best of our ability, and obviously provide a formal response where necessary.
To that point about the water line connection and space available, on the drawing, is this second drawing? Yeah. Where it shows the full width of Cork Road with the 66-foot wide right-of-way, and the water line is outside of that. I'm sure there's an easement for it, but it also looks like there's a driveway right there, kind of close to where you're going to have to directionally drill, at least the way you've shown it to access the house. So I don't know if that
Yeah,
should be shown on that drawing. It doesn't show up on this, but there's like these two dashed lines on one of the other drawings. Like I said,
I see that.
so I'd hate to have you show a water line in a place where there's no access to get that, you have to move it.
Right.
And maybe that comes up in the building permit and you get the town, highway permit and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and we can adjust that as needed too.
Just looking for
It
things
depends
you
on the
should,
building plans and where
Yeah.
that's going to want to come in.
but I'm thinking these are things we want to see on the final plan for signature before, it goes through. Anything else, Wes? Did I trigger?
No, that's it.
Okay. All right, I'm going to open up to the public, if anyone's here, has any comments, questions. I know it's a highly populated room, but. All right, so in that regard, hearing none, I don't think there's anything online, correct, Susie? Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll move.
Second.
Al moves, Scott seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Public hearing's closed. Any other comments, questions for the applicant? Are we prepared to,
Does have the waiver.
okay, we can work on that. Give one to Scott?
Maybe.
I will keep the extra.
All right, we do have a draft resolution, and as Lisa pointed out, and
Yeah.
I'm likely to also add something regarding the septic system and things like that on the adjacent parcel. We may need to modify this. So, Wallace Minor Subdivision, 1195 Cork Road, application 1MS 2026, whereas Planning Board made the following findings of fact. There are 9 of them. Anything jump out at you, Wes? It looks like their reviews and everything are all set. Whereas Planning Board reviewed the unlisted action on February 10th, 2026 and identified no significant impacts, now therefore be it resolved that the project Wallace Minor Subdivision will not have a significant impact on the environment, and a negative declaration be prepared, and be it further resolved that the Planning Board I don't know if I want that in there.
Right, that.
Yeah, let's eliminate that further resolved. It's a discussion on waiving the horizontal minimum setback of less than 10 feet from the adjacent property line. I don't feel inclined to waive that. I don't-
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so scratch that, please, Lisa. Okay, Resolved that the application of Craig Wallace minor subdivision entitled Wallace Minor Subdivision drawn by McMahon LaRue dated January 6, 2026, received by the planning board January 9, 2026, be last revised February 10th, 2026. Planning board application 1MS 2026 be approved with the following conditions. Conditions that must be met prior to the chairman signing the minor subdivision plan. 1 is standard, 2, standard, number 3, also standard. 4, comments from code enforcement officer dated January 29th, 2026 be addressed. 5, the comments in a letter dated February 10th, 2026 from Labella Associates be addressed. Number 6, that the drawing revised on February 10th, 2026 be further revised to include the location and offset of the existing septic system and leach field on Lot 1, and that the engineer verify that it satisfies town code for offset from property line. Is that fair? That makes sense, Wes?
Yep.
Okay. What was the other one? That the turnaround driveway, or that any pavement be depicted on the plan?
I
with-
would
to
detail
comply with-
RS6.
Yeah, that, whatever he said. Am I missing anything, Wes, that we just talked about?
The other thing that I'm looking up right now, which may be a waiver, is the connection spacing standard from Chapter 55.
Oh, for the driveways?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, we definitely need to talk about that at some point.
Let me do a quick measure.
So number 6 had those two modifications together.
Number 6
Yeah.
for both of them.
Correct.
Can I ask for one, please, under ongoing, while Wes is looking for that too, for the highway work permit, not just for the driveway, but also for utility connections?
Yeah. Okay, so that, we'll put a number 6 in there.
Number
So it was number 4 under
Oh,
ongoing.
highway permit. Oh, and
installation.
installation utilities, yeah.
Please, thank you.
Need easement, do they need easements for the, if it's off? I don't know how you tie in.
Like he said, if it's going to be within the right of way, no.
Yeah,
I think Scout Path or Scout Reserve, but one of those two, they did have to create, to Wes's point, temporary easements across the street when they were pulling the utilities because they directional drilled. But like it depends on
you need
where
directional.
exactly the utility is and where exactly their boring
Yeah.
pit's going to be within the right of way or not.
So would you directionally drill from where the water line is or from the other side so you minimize?
I think typically you'd pull it from the other side. So you'd be stretching your pipe out away on the other
Towards the
side of the
house?
road. On the other side of the road from where the house you're building,
Okay.
and then pull it back towards you.
What do you say, Wes?
So if the planning board is so inclined to provide this waiver to Chapter 55, right? The collector and local through road spacing requirement in Chapter 55 would be 440 feet for a roadway of 45 miles per hour
Right.
or greater. And it looks like roughly the distances between driveways, at least on the north side of Cork, might be approximately 120 feet in one direction, and the other direction, maybe 80 feet.
Yeah.
Just, those are rough measurements based on aerial photography and
Mhm.
Google Earth.
Well, we know they're less than the,
It's less than 450
Right.
feet or whatever it is.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so that would be a waiver, would that be in prior to chairman's signature, or is that actually a whereas?
It's just that would be
Under the whereas.
whereas the planning board,
Number 10, whereas, Lisa.
Where
I
did
can-
you want have me put it where I took out the in the
Oh,
setback.
got it.
I think that's where I've done it before.
You mean to be it further resolved?
Yeah.
I can help Lisa with the specific
Yeah,
language
okay,
there.
well,
We
we'll-
understand your intent.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do that.
Sure.
And I think we got, prior to signature, conditions are ongoing. Minor subdivision complied with Victor, Town of Victor design and construction standards. Number 2, standard. Number 3, that's standard 1. 4, highway permit be obtained for installation of a driveway and utilities.
Yep.
And number 5, that an approved building permit be obtained prior to construction of the proposed single-family dwelling. So, as modified and massaged by Wes and Lisa, when they finish it up, do I hear a motion for approval?
I'll move it.
Scott moves,
Second.
Joe seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, carried 4-0. Okay. Yeah, a little work to do, but you're pretty much set, so, thank you. All right, that's the formal agenda. Does anyone else have anything? I know Scott does. Keith?
Sorry, I forgot one thing from before that I talked to Joe about. So Adam Reisig, one of our code enforcement officers, has been working towards totally overhauling our sign code.
Can't hear.
Sorry. Better?
Sort of.
Okay. So Adam's been working on redoing our sign code similar to what we did with solar, but on a smaller scale. So he's done a draft. So now we'd like to form a committee. Ultimately, obviously, it'll go to the town board for their consideration. But so far in the committee, we're going to ask for a town board member, Kathy Rayburn, our Director of Economic Development, Adam, myself, and we'd like I feel like I'm forgetting somebody.
Zoning.
Zoning board, Mike Reinhardt, the chairman of the zoning board, is going to be on the committee. So we would also like a planning board representative, similar to what we did for the solar. Scott was on that. So I don't know if anybody's interested. It'd be a much smaller scale thing. Adam and I are thinking just a couple meetings where I think solar we met for
Quite a bit.
8 months. So I don't need an answer right now. I meant to bring this up
Yeah.
at the beginning of the meeting.
I'll sign up.
Joe?
Okay,
Sure.
okay, that'd be awesome.
Oh, yeah, just
There was free donuts.
I'll bring that up to Adam.
as long as he brings them.
Thank you, Joe. So Adam will be reaching out in the near future to get schedules and set up a meeting. All right, that's
All right,
all I
great.
had. Thank you.
Okay, Keith, thank you. Scott?
So I just wanted to mention something that became very noticeable to me a couple meetings ago when Adlocks came in here and they presented a drawing for their project that was my drawing that I knew nothing about. I didn't really check the packet well enough to know my drawing was in there, but it was, and I saw it on the screen when they were presenting their project, and it brought to mind a situation that I've seen with a couple of other applications, most recently like the Thirsty Turtle. Plans that are coming in here that are designed by others years ago that are nevertheless being photocopied and sent in and made part of the application without the approval of the person who created the plan in the first place, which violates technically state education law, and it also violates the copyright laws. So I would be remiss if I didn't say something to the board about this, because I have to tell you, my drawing became part of the approval resolution. And I'm just thinking to myself, this is really unusual. I knew nothing about it whatsoever. And I guess it's not uncommon in our business for this to happen, and I certainly don't, have any issue with Hadlocks, and I didn't want to say anything to the extent of derailing their application, which was a minor application as I saw it. And they probably wouldn't know how to respond, and they wouldn't know what to do, and they probably wouldn't be very happy. But for that particular project, I did the map for Bayless Furniture that used to be in there when they sold. And it's an extensive survey, and at a minimum, when these situations arise, whoever's using someone else's work should contact that individual and get their permission, at least. I probably wouldn't have asked for any compensation, but I'd like the courtesy of being asked for my work.
Well, on the plus side, there's two different things that are potentially an issue for an engineer, myself included.
Right.
And in the past, I've had to recuse myself. In this case, you wouldn't have had to do that. You weren't getting compensated for it or anything, so,
That's true.
Yeah.
I didn't have to recuse myself, so.
so I guess the other, I'm not sure how we address that other than making sure that somehow you're aware that your drawings are there, but how would you know that until it came before you?
Yeah, and I also understand that when you look at, Joe Citizen putting a shed in their backyard and they want to try to comply and give us a drawing and whatever, that, the economics of the project is such that, they can't really afford to go out and hire somebody to do all the things that we'd like to see them do. So I get all that, but I just wanted to bring it to your attention because I thought it was timely to do so.
Okay. Any questions for Scott? All right, let's appreciate your bringing
Yeah.
that forward, Scott.
I'd like to just chime in. I appreciate that comment too, because we see this not only, right, it's not unique to Victor. We
Right.
see it in other communities where this exact instance has occurred. And I think it's good that you're shining some light on this issue, because I think it maybe will help bring some attention, even to Labella's perspective, and when we're reviewing plans, right? Sometimes we see something that maybe we assume the design professional has given permission for the applicant to use, and when we, I think, clearly understand that, like you say, the economics of the project doesn't really warrant someone going out to hire a surveyor or an engineer, but I think that'll be helpful, and, we'll be cognizant of that, and we'll talk with staff about it too.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
When I get a plan in, if I notice your stamp or something, we can reach out to you. I don't think
Yeah.
anybody else, I
Well-
don't see anything, but.
If I'm a homeowner, Scott, and I've paid to have my lot surveyed and I've had this design work done, is it my property or the engineer's?
Well, in a lot of cases, the applicant comes to us and they fill out a freedom of information, like they fill out a FOIA request. Like, it's all public, anything we have in this building, even if it's old from prior projects, is public information. Like, Joe, if you wanted anything on your house where you live now, FOIL it tomorrow, we'll give you the folder.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So a lot of times I know codes does accept for like a shed or a pool or something minor, they'll ask us for the instrument survey, and on a fairly new house, we have that right at our fingertips and we give it to them and then they draw on it, you know what I mean? Versus like a full scale where you need engineering and grading and utilities and all that. So I think it's a good point too, but it does, it's in this building and you ask for it, we have to give it to you.
The other one that jumped out at me, as I mentioned, was Thirsty Turtle, because they've been in here before us on many occasions. And the drawing that they submitted with those two storage units, it was stamped in like 2006, I think, by an architect. And were pretty, if you will, ratty-looking drawings, in my opinion. And I would be willing to bet my lunch that they didn't contact that architect for permission to use his plans. And last I knew, they were in here with BME doing coverage stuff, and I'm not sure whatever happened with that anyway, but they have hired BME in the past, so I would think that they, for example, are someone who could use a design professional. Maybe they don't want to listen to the design professional, but they could use a design professional that they've used before and not give us the cartoon drawings, if you will, without permission by the design professional. I mean, that's just one that sticks out at me. I mean, once again, we've seen other ones with fences or sheds or what have you. And I also think a good way to kind of maybe get around that one is we can use codes, to kind of step in there and give us information if they don't have, if the economics don't justify hiring an engineer or surveyor, codes can go out usually and verify a number of things we may be interested in. We've done this before with slopes and what you can see, and let codes be our eyes in the field then, versus an engineered drawing. But anyway, just thought I'd bring that up.
Yeah, no, that's good. Good point. It's a good thing for us to be aware of. Anybody else? Okay, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'll move it.
Scott moves. Al seconds. Quickly, all in favor? Aye. Have a great evening, everyone.
We can, Lisa and I